Hi, and welcome back to Crypto Radio. Today we have Martin Köppelman on the show. He's the CEO and co-founder of Gnosis, a decentralized prediction market platform that operates on the Ethereum blockchain. Both Martin and us recently attended the Aracon Conference in Berlin, which was focused on decentralized and distributed governance. Martin is also one of the creators of Circles, a cryptocurrency project that aims to create and distribute a globally accessible universal basic income. In this interview, we discuss how to build the infrastructure that leads to a successful prediction market, Martin's experience with decentralized governance models, and ways to make universal basic income a reality. For all the links and show notes, go to cryptoradio.io/gnosis. That's with a G. Gnosis. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome to Crypto Radio. We interview the top thinkers and entrepreneurs in the blockchain and cryptocurrency industry. We're your hosts, Mike Gilliland, Chris Sparks, and UBI Benova. If you're new to the show and you'd like a list of our top episodes and resources, go to cryptoradio.io/start. If you like our podcast, you can subscribe, share, and follow us on social media and leave us a rating and a review on iTunes and elsewhere. It helps others find the show and we really appreciate it. You can find all those links at cryptoradio.io/start. Check out A Course in Personal Evolution, adapting age-old wisdom for a modern life of purpose and meaning. Go to futurethinkers.org/evolution.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's really awesome to have you. We've known about your work for a few years, and it's great to have you on the show finally.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So why don't you start by giving us just a brief introduction to what you do and some of the projects that you're working on?
Sure, yeah. My name is Martin Köppelman. Started getting, I think I got involved in the blockchain back then, only Bitcoin world, 6-7 years ago, and right now the I guess biggest two projects I'm involved with is Gnosis, prediction market platform on Ethereum, and Circles, universal basic income project also on Ethereum. It has been quite a journey. So with Gnosis, so in a way, technically, we went live already 1 or 2 weeks after Ethereum launched. So already like three years ago. So the project is 4 years old, and we have been there like from the very beginning of Ethereum. But then there are like always iterations. I mean, the first version was really just like a proof of concept. And then 2017 was, of course, a quite significant year, because there we did a token sale, and like after that we had the resources to grow the team significantly. So kind of it brought the project definitely to another level. Like before we were like 7 people. Now we are 50. We are doing. We started with the goal to bring prediction markets, or to make prediction markets happen. But kind of along that way, we discovered that there's still so much infrastructure, or so many pieces missing to actually build a kind of complex product like prediction markets. So the two things that went live were actually in last year is a wallet and a decentralized exchange, which in a way are the basis for prediction markets.
Cool.
So the prediction markets still are coming.
Mm-hmm. And you guys are also launching a DAO, DX DAO. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Right. So that is the that is another infrastructure piece that is missing to eventually get to prediction markets. So we launched this decentralized exchange, and there is a trade-off with those decentralized protocols. Either you kind of deploy them and they are fully decentralized, so in a way you can never change them again. You have no way to because there's no owner and so on, and that then it's decentralized, but you have no chance to upgrade it, to change it, or you remain the owner and you remain like in control. Then then kind of the whole effort of building a decentralized is kind of wasted, because in the end you still have the control. So that kind of brought up the need for a DAO. So to build like those decentralized protocols and have them also governed or owned by a wide community. And that really tackles the question of decentralized governance, or the very big and broad goal: how do you coordinate 1,000 people, 1 million people? And that is what this DAO is about. So ultimately, this DAO is an experiment in, can we get like 1 million people on the globe coordinated around some shared goals.
What are some of the early lessons you've learned from this experience so far?
Well, I mean, there are attempts there are like a bunch of experiments around DAOs, and in many or some like kind of try to replicate existing structures, like just with smart contracts. So yeah, you can have like a board, or you can have voting, and kind of replicate existing structures. But I think we really felt the need for completely new ways. So not just replicating existing structures. So here we partnered with a project that's exactly doing that. It's called DAOstack. They are trying to really solve that problem. How do you coordinate large group of people without relying on delegation of power? So usually you would I mean, that's kind of the common scheme. So how can you remain a flat organization where all like members are equal, everything's transparent, for example, and you still want to get stuff done. So you still want to get this kind of organization should still have the ability to make frequent decisions, and that's not easy, but that's what we try. And kind of one piece that we are excited about, and probably like was connected also to our background with prediction markets, is to mix kind of voting and market mechanisms together. So we believe kind of to scale up, or markets have kind of some unique abilities to scale, or to scale to large amount of participants.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are some of the biggest barriers for making that happen currently?
I mean, first of all, I would say the barriers have been reduced significantly thanks to something called Ethereum. So I would say that Ethereum is opening up a huge playground for experimentation. So right now, I would say the doors are open, and we can have many DAOs experiments, and most will fail, but I think I'm sure some will hopefully some will succeed.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that participation is an issue in DAOs? How have you found that so far? Because if it's really flat, if there's no hierarchy, I've noticed that can sometimes be the case.
Yeah, exactly. That was a little bit what I was hinting to with the comment on markets. So, for example, if you have a pure voting mechanism, then yes, historically, that sounds like it would be in the last like 1 or 2 years, we have seen that voter participation is very low. So in the range of sometimes less than 1% of all the voters actually vote. And actually, there are in a way there are quite good reasons not to vote. So it's kind of, in a way, it can be rational to not vote. So there can be arguments like, well, I'm only a small like shareholder of the thing, and so my vote won't change anything, or kind of, well, it's not worth the effort for me personally. The other people will figure it out, and kind of all those things. That is something we or DAOstack in their design has specifically is addressing. So there will be incentives to vote. So one is if you vote kind of with the majority, you will or kind of those who participate in the voting will slightly get more reputation or voting rights over time. So those who don't participate are kind of diluted in a way. That's one element. And another critical element is this introduction of markets. So so a proposal comes in, and in a way, if it's a good proposal and like just a few people vote and it passes, that's not an issue. I mean, great, then the good proposal passes. And it's actually critical to scale up an organization that not everyone has to vote, because I mean, if for every decision like 1 million people would need to vote, then you can't make that many decisions. So if you want to make 100 decisions a day, not everyone can vote. That's 100% clear. So the trick is how do you make sure that kind of good proposals can like easily pass, but like bad proposals kind of get that then enough people kind of show up and actually vote against it to make sure that they don't pass, and like a small coordinated group within your DAO cannot kind of get through make a bad proposal happen. So here that is the market mechanism that the DAOstack, they call this concept holographic consensus, and as soon as a proposal comes in, there will be a prediction market, whether or not this proposal will pass, and people have to kind of to actually they call it boost the proposal. So people have to first like predict that this vote will pass, and again if it passes, all is fine. However, if it is a bad proposal, first someone has to predict or like bet money that it will pass. If it's a bad proposal, that should then create an incentive for someone to say, wait a minute, this is a bad proposal, I bet against you. And then finally, or suddenly this person like betting against it has an incentive to like alert the group and say, wake up everyone, here's a bad proposal coming in, please vote. And they have a very like direct incentive because they want to like win their prediction and get the payout. So that is the idea to it's really about managing the attention of the group. So attention is a limited resource of a group, and so to like get the attention in this system, it is ensured that there are the financial incentives to like create this attention.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are too many proposals, is there a system for kind of floating the best ones to the top, like a Reddit style?
Exactly. So that is this that is exactly this boosting. So basically those proposals where like the most money is behind it, or kind of the most money is staked behind it. So in a way, the market is very confident that those proposals will pass. They are floated to the top. But the important thing is the money does not decide whether or not it's accepted. It just like prioritizes the vote. So kind of they are floated to the top.
Yeah, it makes sense. It just brings it to people's attention more. They're two separate mechanisms. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And whether it's accepted or not, that still only depends on the vote, not on the money.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned about kind of the reputation of voters. The more they participate, the more their reputation increases. And so is their vote actually valued more? And if they submit a proposal, is that proposal kind of floated higher, or is that not dependent on it?
It's two separate mechanisms. So if reputation is equivalent to voting rights. So as you as you participate more, or you get more reputation. But anyone can make a proposal, and the proposal is kind of, whether it's boosted or not, only depends on the market. So it doesn't matter who submits it. You can even submit a proposal if you are not part of that group. As long as the market believes that there's a good chance that this proposal will be accepted, then it will be boosted.
What kind of use cases are you guys experimenting with, and what sort of industries do you think this will take off in?
Right. So, I mean, the very big promise or ideal would be to reach what we call super scalable organizations. So in general, the observation is that the forms of organizations we have to organize large group of peoples are companies and countries, actually, but they are not very, very scalable. So the company doubles their employees and doubles the resources. It doesn't mean that they double kind of the ability to make good decisions. Usually it's really, or that's definitely not easy to and we have actually seen that with Gnosis. So we started with 5 people. It was easier. With 50 people already, it's not that easy to kind of make sure everything is always going well. So the big promise of this DAOs are, can we get super scalable first scalable organizations, maybe even super scalable organizations, where as you add more people, your ability to make good decisions even increases, or not increases only linearly, but you have actually network effects. And in theory, that you could imagine, you have more people, so at least someone will be there that really knows, or it increases the chance that someone really knows, and you just need the right mechanisms to make sure that then the best opinion kind of wins in a way. So if we ever come to that stage, and of course that's very far off, then asking your question, of course, we could assume that those DAOs will effectively replace companies and just really change the way how we as humans organize. But of course that is a moonshot. And so very practically, where do we start? We start with, or our suggestion is to start in the crypto world, and the very concrete thing, this DAO, this DX DAO we are starting, is governing a decentralized exchange, and generally maybe after that this DeFi space, decentralized finance. So all the stuff around decentralized finance that's happening on Ethereum would probably be a good start for this DAO.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to switch it up just a little bit and talk about your other passion for basic income, and ask you about your project for basic income on the blockchain. How's that going? I know that the idea came about a few years ago, but how has it progressed since then?
Right. So maybe a little bit of context here. So I think I'm very convinced that the idea of universal basic income is a good one, and more people are convinced that this is a good idea. So if we would agree universal basic income is a good idea, then there are roughly 2 passes how to get there. So one is via nation states. So a nation state could implement universal basic income as an alternative to social security, or as one implementation of making sure there's social security and other things. But there is also the other option to try to imagine ways to organize a universal basic income without nation states. So kind of voluntary self-organized, whatever kind of that direction. And blockchain has, in a way, opened up this direction. And yeah, the very concrete observation was, well, Bitcoin was in a way invented, and you can like have debates about whether Bitcoin is money or not, but let's say it's somewhat similar at least as money. So in a way, a new form of money was invented or created. And at some point I realized, okay, the design space for money is so much bigger. So I mean, well, obviously we have the money we know, the fiat money, and now we have Bitcoin, but well, we could imagine like a lot of more stuff. And the idea of Circles was to build money with the idea of universal basic income really built into the system. So instead of like if a nation state would develop or would implement universal basic income, they would let's say in Germany the state would take euros and somewhere collect euros and then like distribute them as a basic income. But if you want to do that anyways, you can kind of put this distribution mechanism directly into the money itself instead of using money and like making this mechanism on top. So that was roughly the idea of Circles. The other like high level description is with Bitcoin it became clear that those who make Bitcoin valuable are the people who kind of use it or believe in it or like hold it. So the community. But the value. So the value comes purely from those who use it or believe in it in a way. But of course, the distribution is very much in favor of those who joined early. So if you are joining today, or kind of you don't have Bitcoin yet, but you want to like you also like start using it, then you are giving it. You're also like you play a role in giving Bitcoin value because it all depends on having a community, but you don't get anything for it. So the idea of Circles is every person can, or just like actually create their own money in a way at a agreed on or at a globally agreed on rate. So you can't like just create as much as you want, but on a specific schedule. And then people can mutually agree with each other to accept each other currencies. So let's say, well, the three of us, we each would have our own currency. Then the three of us, we could agree, well, I accept yours and yours, or we each other are accepting our currencies. So in that way, I give your currency value because I'm accepting it, and you give my currency value. So it's a mutual thing. And that's the idea of Circles. So you build your circles around your personal currency, and the good thing is that can scale. So I don't have. I mean, it would be absurd if I would need to be like directly connected to someone if I want to interact with them or pay them. So that is not required. It's enough that there is a trust connection or just a connection. So I can be connected to you and you can be connected to someone else. And if then I want to pay this someone else with Circles, so someone else wouldn't be connected to me, so they wouldn't accept my currency. But since I can like exchange it with yours and they would accept yours, effectively I can kind of pay them money like through you. And that's roughly the idea of Circles.
So what happens if a person doesn't have very many friends or is not very well liked and nobody wants to accept their currency?
Well, then nobody accepts the currency. So I think it is it is a question of a social contract. So if like whether we as a society in a way agree that there should be a universal basic income, and if enough people agree with that, and enough people agree with the idea that everyone should receive a basic income, even if they like personally don't like that person, then it will work. Of course, the idea is that hopefully most or every people have at least family or friend, or some friends, and you don't have to be connected to too many people, because as long as you're connected to some and they are then connected to some, you are still connected to the network.
And another question is it actually practical to have a different currency for every person? Because, what we found in the last couple of years is that all these different coins came out, and
right.
Some of them have become completely worthless because,
right.
well, there's just not enough people who want them.
Right. So, kind of this idea of having a different currency per person is a very technical one, and it doesn't have to be very present in your daily experiment, in your daily or in the future daily experience. So technically, your dollar that you have on your whatever Bank of America account and the dollar you have on another bank, those are also in a way different currencies. And people who had money in euros in Greece, they realized that very, very hard in a very hard way. They realized that the euro on a bank in Greece was different from the euro they had in cash, because the one they could access, the other they could not. So similar in circles. If everything goes well, people shouldn't even realize that they have different currencies, because everyone is, or ideally, as long as no one is completely isolated, then everyone is connected to everyone else through some path, and that means every currency is in a way interchangeable with every other. So in the end, you have your app, your Circles app. So that's kind of and just shows the total number of circles you have, and it doesn't matter that they are in kind of under the hood, they are 50 different from 50 different people. However, it still matters in case something goes wrong. So and what could that mean? Well, with this idea of crypto UBI, and few projects are trying to do that. Circles is not the only one. One critical piece is this identity problem. So how and who decides who gets the basic income? So how do you register? And specifically, if you want to build a decentralized, if you don't want to rely on one central entity, and I would say if you rely on one central entity, it can never scale globally. You can never say, even something like the UN couldn't handle to decide for 8 billion people whether they should receive it or not. So basically, if you have just one system and one system deciding who participates, if there's something broken and somehow a lot of fake people can be created or receive a basic income, the whole currency is broken in a way, because at some point it's leaking, or it's fake currency is created. With Circles, if you have your network, and then in some part of the network, a lot of fake people are created, that does not affect the rest of the network, because you can later just exclude that part, because they have a different currency, and only those are affected who were connected to them. So in the end, the system is much more resilient.
And you kind of answered a part of that question, but how do you prevent fraud?
So that is exactly the thing, that you can create fake accounts, but as long as no one connects with them to them, then that doesn't give you anything. So the critical piece is that if I create my Circles account, I need first to connect to you, or actually I would first connect to my friends, and they in a way take on the risk of accepting my currency, because they end up with that. So they have to, in a way, verify that I'm real and I didn't create 10 or 20 accounts. So it combines many things. So this web of trust combines the verification of my the person I'm connected to is actually real, and it of course is also the thing that gives the currency value, is those mutual agreements, and in a way also a social contract between two people. So you could even say they are each giving each other a universal basic income, because they are basically saying, or you can also express it as, I give you credit and you give me credit to some extent. So I'm allowed to consume something you offer, just because I'm human and you give me basic income in a way. So
you mentioned that if it's identified that there is fraud happening, how is that dealt with in the system?
So the one way, it's hard actually to make fraud happen at scale, because the only way to really make fraud would be to create a lot of accounts, or one person would create a lot of accounts and then would try to connect connect one account to a subset of people and the other account to another subset of people, and thereby get two basic incomes or three. So then it really it would be up to the people they are connected to deal with it. In a way, they risk, of course, of having then currencies that at some point no one else will accept. So at some point everyone could say, wait, this guy was screwing us, trying to screw us, and now we exclude them from the system. And that would hurt everyone who accepted their currency. But that is, I would say, that is necessary, this risk, because otherwise, if you don't have that risk, people would just accept everyone, and it wouldn't be a good mechanism to actually prevent fraud if there is no risk in validating a person.
So this means that people would have to only transact with those they trust. If a stranger walks into your store and tries to buy something, you don't know who they are.
Well, yeah, in that case, you shouldn't connect to them, but to transact, ideally there would be a connection between you and the stranger. So the stranger should be connected to someone that's connected to someone that's connected to you. And as long as that path exists, then the stranger can still buy in your shop, and you would receive only the token or the coin or the currency from the person you are directly connected with. But through multiple hops.
I see. So you wouldn't necessarily be taking in their currency. You would be taking another currency that they hold, that they got from somebody you trust.
Or not even they don't have to hold that. They only needs to be a trust connection. So I'm connected to you, and you are connected to someone else, and I'm not connected to the someone else, and I'm also not I also don't have their currency. But since we are connected, you kind of agree automatically to at any time accept my currency, and exchange it one-to-one, your currency against my currency. So what I can do is you don't even have to be aware of that. That can happen automatically. But I send you 10 of my tokens, and you send 10 of your currency to that other person. So for you, it doesn't make a difference because, well, you got 10, you spent 10, but this other person is only receiving the currency from you, from a person they trust. And then that can go, of course, over even more hops. So,
and if a fraudulent person is flagged, does all of their currency become flagged as well? Like, how do other people find out if somebody's committing fraud?
Yeah, it's always only a local thing. So if you would figure out that I'm trying to make fraud and have multiple accounts, you could just cut our connection, and basically you would say, I do no longer accept or exchange accept my currency. But then the damage you might have is, if you at this point have kind of my currency, you might end up with this currency that then no one might any longer more accept anymore.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys going to be using any kind of significant financial incentives where people could actually earn a living by participating somehow?
It really depends on how widely Circles is accepted. So, the very concrete start, we will start an experiment here in Berlin, and we are opening a cafe. So that is a very concrete first example. So there will be a physical cafe called Kaffee Grundeinkommen, German word for basic income, and you will be able to go to this cafe and get your coffee and pay with Circles.
Cool.
And then it really depends on how many people we or how many people and organizations we can get excited about this idea. We have it's not 100% confirmed, but most likely a landlord. We have a landlord that was 40 units. So that who might accept Circles. So then there will be 40 units in Berlin where you can rent and pay your rent with Circles, and those things, of course, would then help to kickstart an economy. So if you can suddenly pay your rent with Circles, well, of course you wouldn't have an issue to accept Circles for whatever you offer. And as that becomes if more and more people would use it in some way and transact with it, yes, the final idea is that eventually your the basic income you get can cover your basic needs.
I think you're really onto something with the rental situation, with having them accept the currency through rental agreements. I think groceries would be the next step as well, but the coffee shop makes sense. There's nothing people need to transact on a bigger, more common level than rent and food. So I think you're on the right track. What's most exciting to you right now in the space related to what you're actually working on, say basic income or DAOs? And what would you explain to someone who's kind of new to the space, who's interested in learning more?
Yeah, I think maybe repeating myself, but I do think it's a great time for experimentation. So I think those are a lot of big ideas there. I think it is on the one hand you can, and we are dreaming big, but I think on the other hand it's also important to still label those things as experiments, because all of DAOs and new currencies and all those things are experimental. So yeah, that's that's the way I see it.
I'm most interested in what is your vision of the future? What does this look like if all the projects succeed? If this is like, 10 years down the road and the ideal version is manifest?
Yeah, I would say the one of these key schemes is more self-sovereign ways to organize people to live together. So both in this basic income scheme, it is Circles is specifically designed that in a way a local community is paying each other basic income in a way, and there's not like one giant organization or that is like giving it from the top, but it's really a peer-to-peer thing, and similar in DAOs. I would say DAOs, at least in the way I envision them, are about remaining or gaining control about stuff we are like dependent on. So I would like to see all the networks that we are like using and are dependent on, kind of all the Silicon Valley billion-dollar networks, Facebook, Uber, and eBay, Amazon. I would like to see them eventually as DAOs, which are widely community and user-owned and controlled, and not like controlled by five guys in Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Do you foresee that being something like a conversion taking place where these companies would convert into DAOs, or do you think it would be more likely that something new would pop up and kind of take their place?
I'm pretty sure something new has to pop up. So
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I would say also the first networks that will, if we ever get to this point, I would suggest that first completely new things will form. So not existing projects or companies will be replaced, or that's at least not the first thing. So I would hope that networks evolve that just haven't existed before. But of course, as a next step, I would then assume that also existing networks, marketplaces will be replaced with decentralized versions of it.
What do you think are some of the big first projects you'd like to see become DAOified? I mean, you're already working on some of them, but I mean, what's next?
Well, yeah, really hard to tell. I mean, obviously, I'm into basic income, and that is one possibility, that just 1 million people or 10 million people on the planet that care about either basic income or climate change organize via DAO. I mean, today there are not that many tools. So there are not that many tools to really organize 1 million people across 100 countries. And we have our, like, if you want to change something, of course you can try to do it via like the random country you're living in, and try to like influence the politics. But specifically issues like climate change and basic income or global basic income, those are not issues that can be solved like from within one country. People would need to organize in very different forms than we today know them and have them. Neither like corporations as they are today, nor like countries as they are today. I can't see how they solve those issues. So I would say that is at least a big hope, that people who share the same goals and values can use DAOs to better organize, better collaborate and find and get things done or start movements. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Last question from me. I'm wondering if we can just dive in a little bit to the kinds of barriers and potential solutions for DAOs actually working and becoming adopted. Maybe we can talk about the different angles too of like social. So what's stopping the average person from a social perspective from getting involved, or maybe infrastructure or technology or tools? Like what are the biggest ways that you see there being obstacles currently, and how can we actually get past them?
Right. I mean, right now, at least with the DAOs, how we are concretely doing it is on Ethereum, and that alone, raises a ton of hurdles and obstacles. So you have like gas costs, and you have to have Ether, and you have to have wallet, and all those things kind of work, but are still
clunky.
Major. I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean. It's still quite significant if you only care about like being member of this DAO and you don't care about the technology, and eventually you shouldn't care about the technology. It should just work, of course. Then, currently, then you can't participate. So that is kind of the pure technological hurdle. But then, of course, there is still I would still say the mechanics are still very early experiments. So I mean, you mentioned rightfully the voting participation issue, that not that many people vote. We believe we have maybe one solution to this issue, but like then there might be 5 other issues. So I would say it's really just another step in the experimentation, but it's of course not clear whether the game theory and the social dynamics are sound. And I would say there is not really a way to be sure about that upfront. I think like coordinating large groups of people is probably one of the most complex things, and to reason about that upfront is like very, very hard. Mm-hmm. But again, on the bright side of things, we have the tools to make those experiments now.
Cool. Well, yeah, that's a very, very exciting time for sure. It seems like more and more infrastructure is being developed in space where things can actually be tried and they're less theoretical, and moving more into practical trials and experiments. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your vision with us and your ideas. And I wish you all the best. I hope that all of your projects come to be, and that we can see mass scale collaboration and potentially basic income on the blockchain in the near future.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Cool.
Take care. Check out A Course in Personal Evolution, adapting age-old wisdom for a modern life of purpose and meaning. Go to futurethinkers.org/evolution.
All right, that was it for this episode. For all the links and show notes, go to cryptoradio.io/gnosis.
If you're new to the show and you'd like a list of our top episodes and resources, go to cryptoradio.io/start. If you like our podcast, you can subscribe, share, and follow us on social media, and leave us a rating and a review on iTunes and elsewhere. It helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. You can find all those links at cryptoradio.io/start. And finally, if you want to be a sponsor of our show, go to cryptoradio.io/sponsor. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.